La sospensione della nuova Specialized Epic merita una spiegazione un po' più dettagliata. Sono qui con Mike McAndrews, il guru delle sospensioni di Specialized. So, Mike, can you show me what changed mostly with the new brain?
Yes. I think the first thing that the consumers are going to see is that the location of the brain has been moved. On the old design, we had the reservoir here, and the relationship between the axle and the inertia valve, or the brain system, is critical to the sensitivity of the system. So for this new bike, as you can see, we moved the brain back here. The old relationship between the reservoir on the old bike and the axle used to be 0.8 to 1, and so that meant when the wheel moved 1 millimeter, the reservoir would only move 0.8, and the movement of the reservoir is what activates the brain system and allows it to open. Back here, we're a little bit better even than 1 to 1, and what it does is, for the rider, is it just makes a really sensitive brain system, more sensitive than anything we've ever produced before. Also, in the new design, here's a cutaway of the reservoir, and we spent a lot of time testing this bike with the inertia valve out of the system because we wanted to use some of our technology that we developed for enduro racing and even some downhill racing. We have a spike valve system here so that when the rider, the racer, is riding the bike and the brain is open, that the damping performance of this shock absorber is as good or better than any shock in the field today on a trail bike or a race bike. We've learned through the racing, the inertia valve, the brain, is very good for pedal efficiency, to get up to speed, but all of the work we did with the bump control in the open mode allows the rider to maintain that speed with less effort. So what it does is makes a faster package overall. Brain system gets you up to speed, spike valve system allows you to maintain the speed with less effort. Faster bike.
You also use a bladder here instead
Yes.
of a floating piston.
That is correct. You know, I've been a fan of the bladders. Years ago, I used to do a lot of motorcycle racing shock absorbers. We only would use the bladder system. For this shock design, because we took the reservoir and put it up on top, we were able to take some space and use the bladder. The reason I like the bladder, conventional shocks in our systems use a floating piston. Floating piston is a round disc with a seal on it, and it must move back and forth every time the shock moves. And most of these systems will have what we call stick, slip, stick, slip, stick, slip. They don't move in a really fluid manner. And that is felt at the shaft or the shock performance. The bladder itself just compresses on itself. It's very fluid, very smooth. Again, it's a subtlety, but what the rider will feel when he rides this bike, the whole package is quite good, but this here helps a little bit with the grip, the traction. So it's very controlled, very fluid in the initial movement.
You also put some new some change in the rear shock.
Yes, so what we did here, we integrated the eyelet to the shock body, and we did this so we could package this whole system better. On the old designs, we would have to use a similar noodle to this going around the frame. And so on the older designs, we had smaller seat to package everything and had a 27-2 seat post.
Yes.
Now we are back to 30.9. We have plenty of room because what we did was we used this part of the clevis to be our shock noodle, so to speak. And as you can see, this thing is hollow through this spar here.
Yes.
Our hose plugs in. Very clean. The other thing it does for me as a shock designer is it's a very good fluid flow. There's no turbulent tight bends. It just shoots out of here down into the reservoir. Now with that said, air sleeve service, I'm sure the shop mechanics and race mechanics are going, how do I get to the air sleeve? We've designed it so the air sleeve and everything comes off the front. It's very easy to do. I'll show you real quick. So you unthread the air sleeve. You would pull that down. We then grab the shaft with shaft clamps, take this guy off, and it's designed so that all of the oil and nitrogen stay in there. This thing is locked in, we can't pull it out, so that means my shock still has all the oil, all the nitrogen pressure, You then, there's a socket that you use. It's a special socket, but it unthreads this seal head, and then you pull it off. So the
Very
shock
simple.
is still good to go. Oil's fine, nitrogen fine. I can get to these seals. I can get to those seals, and very easy to do.
Thanks. Nice, very nice, really good job. So,
Thank you, sir.
thanks a lot, Mike, for the explanations.
Thank you.
Now it's time for riding.
Yes, get up there.